Robert Harding is with us. Justin Ritzel is in the press box at Holland Stadium or someplace else.
That is correct. Hopefully you guys can hear me.
I can hear you. I can see you.
The audio is still better than Kira's voice, I'll tell you that.
Sorry that my opening remarks were not as long as the owner of the Dodgers last night following the presentation of the World Series trophy. Robert had tweeted that my opening remarks are usually longer than his, and well, I'm going to contradict that. So, all right, we're going to pick 4 NFL games, then we'll go back to baseball. So, Justin had the games this week, our 4 games, and Robert and Justin both went 3-1 last week. I went 2-2, and Robert and Justin are both 18-10, and I'm only 2 games back at 16-12. So it's still anybody's race here. So our first game, the 49ers at the Seahawks. 49ers coming off a very impressive win at New England. Seahawks coming off their first loss of the season at Arizona. By the way, I did pick that game right. That was a pretty good one. Seahawks, divisional game. And, I think they're smarting from that loss last week because they know they should have won that game. I like Seattle to win and cover, beating Seattle. I'm sorry, beating San Francisco. My bad. Robert, go ahead.
I think the Niners showed. Of course, they were playing the Patriots. No offense to a friend of the program, Bob Sosi, but the Patriots are dogs this year. The Niners bounced back after, they've looked pretty good since that Dolphins loss a few weeks ago now. But yeah, I like the Seahawks in this game. Russell Wilson to bounce back. I am going to take them to cover. I still think that this team is one of the better teams in the NFC. And while the Niners seem to have found some of that old magic from last year, I still think the Seahawks are a better team.
Justin.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. My audio is a little wonky right now.
Can't see him, though.
And you're back.
I feel like Chris right now.
You're back on.
Well, I'll make this quick because who knows how long I'll be here. I'll take the 49ers. I think they had a very impressive win last week against the Patriots. Seahawks, I think, have been exposed really this whole season. Their defense stinks. I think the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, for my money, the best coach in the NFL. I think they get it done. I think they cover the spread against an overrated Seahawks team.
All right, our next game, the Los Angeles Rams, 4-point favorites at my Miami Dolphins. Now, obviously, this is a huge game for the Dolphins because it's the beginning of the Tua era. And, being the Dolphins fan that I am, longtime Dolphins fan, I got to admit, I'm getting excited for Tua time. I'm eager to see how the kid does, and it's going to be interesting to see. But that being said, he's going up against a very, very tough Los Angeles Rams defense. I mean, we watched them last week, Monday night against the Bears, and they're tough. They're a very good defense, and I think that's going to be the key to this game. The Rams will win. They'll cover. The Dolphins, I can't expect Tua to be, show the premise that he has in the first game, although I could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong, but I like the Rams -4 at Miami. Justin, go ahead. All right. Oh, look at Robert. Okay, Robert. Wow. That's impressive. I like that. Where'd you get that?
It's called Google, Chris. You should try it sometime.
Oh, yeah, okay. But where did you find it then?
I don't know. I just searched Tua Zoom backgrounds, and here we are.
There we go. It's amazing. So, well, I have to admit, even though you're trolling me, I have to admit I'm quite impressed. So why don't you give me your pick for the game then?
Well, look, I've been telling Chris for a while the Dolphins have a good one in Tua. Haven't watched his play in Alabama. He's the quarterback of the future for the Dolphins and the quarterback of the present. But I'm giving Chris a little shine this week, just to keep his morale fairly high. The Rams are going to win this game and cover. Don't get me wrong. Aaron Donald is going to give Tua a nice greeting to the NFL. But it'll be interesting to see how Tua does as the starter. He's getting his chance here, and I think the Dolphins will give him some rope here and let him play through some some mistakes. Obviously he's a rookie coming in the league, but it'll be nice to see a full game of action out of him. To see what he can do with that roster, which they got some decent players. Myles Gaskin, great running back on my team after Saquon Barkley is out for the year. So Gaskin's filled in nicely on my fantasy team, and you got Devontae Parker there, Gesicki. You got some decent players on that lineup, Chris. So Tua should be able to be productive. But again, I think the Rams are a better team, and they'll take care of business against the Dolphins.
I was going to say Zach Ford, a slot wide receiver, is going to be a guy to keep an eye open for. But it's nice of you to know all those Dolphin players. Going back to Gaskin, the Dolphins' run game has not been impressive this year. Gaskin's had some decent games, but, this guy hasn't even rushed for 100 yards yet in one game. So I think for the Dolphins, the key to it is they've got to be able to run the football if they're going to make a chance to beat the Rams. That's going to be tough, very, very tough. So, all right, Justin, your pick for the game.
Tua, welcome to the NFL. Have fun getting beat up by the best defensive players since Lawrence Taylor, Mr. Aaron Donald, who I think will channel his inner Ivan Drago this week. I will break you, Tua. I'll take the Rams to defeat the Dolphins and cover.
All right, next game, Saints -4 at the Bears. We know how much Justin loves the Bears, being the Packers fan. Bears coming off a very inept loss on the road to LA, so it's a short week. Saints, I don't remember how they did last week. I think they won, right? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head how the Saints did. I think they won their game last week. So, I think the Bears, they've been, take advantage of an easy schedule. They have a good defense, but I don't think they can hold the Saints down that long. I like the Saints to go into Soldier Field and cover -4 at Chicago. Justin, your thoughts?
Well, as I was saying to Chris a bit earlier, I'm not sure why this game is getting the Troy Aikman, Joe Buck treatment this week when Seattle, San Francisco is going on at the same time. Beats me. I'm stunned that Chris didn't bring in the short week comment for our last game. Another Chrisism. Listen, the Bears were exposed Monday night. They weren't a 5-1 team, despite what their record says. Their offense stinks. Nick Foles stinks, and good offenses can move the ball on their defense. I'm not saying that the Saints are an elite offense, especially without that crybaby Michael Thomas playing every week. But I do think the Saints are a significantly better team, and I think they will go into Chicago and win, even with noodle arm Drew Brees.
Robert, who do you like?
I like the Saints, especially after that performance the Bears put up last week. Just a bad showing for them, against the Rams. If this team wants to be taken seriously, which they've beaten a lot of mediocre to bad teams this year. So if they want to be taken seriously, they got to beat teams like the Rams, like the Saints. And I just don't think they have, all the pieces there. Certainly the defense is good enough, but with Nick Foles or Trubisky at quarterback, that offense really isn't that good. So I like the Saints in this one, even with Ritz's boy Noodle Arm there. I think they have enough to take care of business there.
Our last game is the Pittsburgh Steelers, the only undefeated team in the NFL, and the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens are 3.5-point favorites. Now, I thought the Steelers were going to lose last week at the Titans, and I was wrong. And to their credit, the Steelers pulled off a pretty good road win. And they're on the road again against probably their most hated rival, the Ravens. I think this is where the Steelers' luck runs out. I know I said it last week, didn't happen, but this week I think it's going to happen. The Ravens, I think, have been waiting for this game. They're only a game out of first place. It's a huge game, a lot of postseason implications, division implications. I like the Ravens to win. They're going to win by 6 at least, so they'll cover 3.5. So I'm going with Baltimore. Justin, who do you like? And Robert, who do you like?
Oh, he's back.
Yeah.
All right.
You don't have the Wi-Fi. It's not that easy. So
yeah. I look, you bet against the Steelers last week, and I didn't understand that. You bought what Ryan Tannehill was selling. It's been the mistake that you haven't lived down for like 8 years now. You betting on Ryan Tannehill, but I like the Steelers. Look, this team is a complete team. Solid offense with Big Ben there. They got some weapons. They might not have the big names, but the Connors and Claypools of the world. Schuster's in the mix. Deontay Johnson. This team is a solid team on the offensive side of the ball, and of course on defense, one of the best units in the league. So, I think if they get ahead, as we know, Lamar Jackson ain't coming back. Okay, this guy, he just doesn't have it. It seems to make that late game charge and to lead his team back once they get behind. So if the Steelers get ahead, I think they'll be safe. So I'm taking them in this one in the battle of the AFC North Titans.
Justin, go ahead.
Well, I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to have to battle back from too much of a deficit because this rivalry has been the best in the NFL over the last 20 years. They play close game after close game after close game. Almost every time they play, it's a field goal difference. So I don't think this is going to be the week where we have to see Lamar Jackson play outside his comfort zone. I think this game fits right into his comfort zone because it's going to be close. I'll take the Ravens. I think the Steelers haven't been super impressed with Big Ben the last couple of weeks. I think while their defense is great, they're going to have to score some points this week. And I just like the Ravens' odds of scoring more than the Steelers this week. So I will go with Baltimore.
All right. So those are our picks for the week. So now we'll stay with the NFL. Our takeaways from week 7 and what to look for in week 8. So for me, the biggest takeaway week 7, the Patriots. And, we knew that there was going to be an adjustment with Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay and Cam Newton coming in. And the Patriots, I believe they got off to a 2-0 start, or at least 2-1. I know that they obviously beat Miami week 1. They looked really good the first 3 weeks. Then the COVID thing hit, and they haven't been the same team since. And I don't know if it's a situation whether it's the COVID or whether other teams have kind of figured out what they're doing. But, for years and years, we've tried to bury the Patriots dynasty, and we haven't been able to do it. And I believe they're 2-4 now. Is this the year we actually say the dynasty's over, the Patriots are done, it's a new era in New England? And this leads into my week 8 with the watch for. Now they're going to Buffalo. The Bills are in first place. The Bills obviously have not looked great the last couple of weeks. They couldn't even get in the end zone against the Jets, which is pretty bad when you think about it. But they did kick 6 field goals and won 18-10. But if the Bills are contenders, then they're going to win this game easily against New England. And if New England goes 2-5, I think you can officially slam the door on them and them having any chance of making the postseason. They'd have to have a heck of a run. So for me, like I said, take away the Patriots and what to look for. Can the Bills take that next step? Because we know that the Patriots have been their albatross all these years. Whenever the people think that the Bills are back or a contender, the Patriots usually show that they're not. So I think that'll be the biggest thing to look for in week 8. Obviously, the Dolphins fan being Tua, we've already talked about him, but I'm kind of curious, can the Bills live up to their hype and actually slam the door on the Patriots? Go ahead, Justin, your takeaways and what to look for.
Well, yeah, one of the most exciting things I think about this season is I do think we were going to learn something about, and we've talked about this before, but I think we were going to learn something about the Bill Belichick, Tom Brady partnership. Tom Brady goes somewhere else. Granted, he picks a very talented team in Tampa Bay, and now Bill Belichick doesn't have the benefit of a future Hall of Fame quarterback and to bail him out when the team's not at its best. So I was really curious kind of how that would shake out. And so far it's been Tom Brady above Bill Belichick. But as Chris mentioned, the Patriots looked really good the first 3 weeks. And then Cam Newton had to miss a game because of coronavirus. Stephon Gilmore had to miss time because of coronavirus. And I'm wondering how Cam Newton can go from looking as awesome as he did against Seattle, I think that was week 2, to the guy we saw Sunday, which he couldn't even complete a pass. He looked like a completely different guy. I don't think a player just becomes bad overnight like that. I think Cam has been hurt by the irregular schedule, the fact that maybe he's, maybe coronavirus has some kind of physical lasting effects on him. We don't know. But I think this is, we didn't pick this game, but I think the Patriots are going to come out this week and show the Bills that, hey, we're off to a slower start than normal, but we're not going anywhere. We're going to give you guys a good game here, and I think Cam Newton will rebound. But that's what I'm looking forward to this upcoming week.
Robert.
Yeah, my big takeaway from last week was the performance of the Cardinals. The Cardinals show that they are for real. They're competing for the NFC West crown, and that's just a great division. That all 4 of those teams, the way that the playoff format is now, could make it in this year. And the Cardinals just have a great team, and they showed that against the Seahawks. They really weathered the storm. The Seahawks for a little bit there looked like they were going to pull ahead and stay ahead, but the Cardinals battled back and made it a game, and of course forced overtime and got the win. So this team, Kyler Murray, a quarterback, has played well this year. The addition of DeAndre Hopkins is a big boost, and they look like very much like a playoff team in the NFC. So it'll be interesting to see how that division unfolds this year. What I'm looking forward to most this week is that Steelers-Ravens matchup that we talked about. Obviously Steelers are 6-0, Ravens coming in at 5-1. 2 great teams. It's going to be a great matchup. It's too bad that this isn't on Sunday Night Football instead of that wretched Cowboys-Eagles game. But, this is just a product of scheduling. But, Steelers-Ravens, just a great game. Looking forward to that. Steelers have bounced back this year with Big Ben at quarterback. Obviously, the Ravens led by the reigning NFL MVP. So should be a good one on Sunday.
All right. So we're going to end the show with a discussion about last night's Game 6 of the World Series. And I think this is a game that people are going to be talking about for a long time, decades. I think people are going to be talking about this game because, and I've written a column about last night's game for tomorrow's paper. It'll be online later tonight on Wednesday here. So, kudos to the Dodgers. They were the best. They were the best team in baseball. They had the best record in the regular season. They overcame a lot. They deserve to be World Series champions. Can't take anything away from them. But that being said, what Kevin Cash did in the 6th inning last night, taking out Blake Snell. I mean, Snell had struck out 9. He'd only given up 2 hits. I mean, I don't know what the heck. I mean, and you guys like to make fun of me for the analytics, okay? But I'm sorry. Analytics, shanalytics, this cost the Rays a chance to possibly force Game 7 and maybe win the World Series. How do you take this guy out when he is dominating? It is incredible. Now, again, I get it. This is the Rays' MO. This is the way they play. It's worked so far. But to me, when you get to a do or die game, everything in the book goes out the book. You do everything you can to win that game. And if it means Blake Snell has to face the Dodgers line up a third time, so be it. You let him, if he's dominating, you keep him out there until he shows any signs that he's faltering. Absolute horrible. And I get it. Kevin Cash has to do these things because that's what he's been ordered to do by the front office. But still, absolutely horrible. I'm not even going to get into the COVID stuff. That's another topic. But I can't believe what Kevin Cash did and how bad I feel for the Tampa Bay Rays players and their fans that they were cheated out of a chance to possibly have a winner-take-all Game 7. Justin, I'll let you go first since your game's going to be starting since you're covering. Your thoughts on last night's game?
Hopefully you guys can hear me. We got some more. Well, yeah, Chris, I'm with the analytics movement. And that thing, as I was saying to you earlier, that stuff works over the course of a 162 game season, but you got to be willing to get away from that when it's the World Series and your season or potentially a championship is on the line. My philosophy, not just with baseball, but with sports, is if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down with my best guy. And for the Rays, that best guy is Blake Snell. And now the organization's going to have to live with the repercussions of deciding a relief pitcher was better than their ace and a Cy Young winner. So I think we were all denied a Game 7 where what I wanted to see was a Game 7 where Clayton Kershaw, who's been well documented for his playoff struggles, finally kind of is lights out this year. And I wanted to see him come in relief in a Game 7 to try and close out a World Series for the Dodgers. And I think we were robbed of that a little bit because of Kevin Cash. But speaking of Kershaw, I'm happy for him most of all. We're talking about a guy who is not only the best pitcher of this generation, but really one of the best pitchers to ever throw, especially in the live ball era. So it was cool to see him finally get that World Series. I think the Dodgers are a pretty likable team. And I think now we get to wonder what would have happened had they won that World Series a couple of years ago against the cheating Astros. This might be a little mini dynasty for the Dodgers had that not happened. But I guess that's discussion for another day because I got to go. So nice talking to you guys.
See you later.
Yeah. All right, Robert, you get the last word. Your thoughts on Game 6 last night?
Well, there's a lot to talk about here. And, obviously it starts with the pitching change. It's just mind blowing to me that decision was made, and as you know, Chris, I'm a big proponent of analytics across all sports. I know that you like to wave your cane at any mention of analytics, but, in this case, you overthink this stuff. And I don't know what it is, but, we actually saw this. If you remember the World Series 4 years ago with the Cubs and Indians, I mean, that was a big poop show in terms of pitching changes. And, Joe Maddon's lucky that they ended up winning that World Series because you forget about some of the boneheaded decisions he made in that series. But with the Rays in this case, yeah, as Ritz was saying before he had to go, it definitely cost them in all likelihood. It cost them a shot at least at a Game 7 because you leave your ace in there. You let him throw, maybe go to 100 pitches, or at least, see what he can do. But it sounds like that this was something that they did with him all season, that, he didn't pitch really, past like 5 or 6 innings. And, I get that this is, part of baseball now. You play the matchups and all this other stuff. But when it's your ace, like the first thought that entered my mind was just imagine like Max Scherzer, his manager, Davey Martinez coming out there and telling him to hand over the ball as he has a 2-hitter working and he's thrown 9 strikeouts. Like Scherzer would be cursing at him the whole way and telling him to get the hell off the field. Snell was a little more polite. He was obviously surprised, but he relinquished the ball and we saw what happened. So yeah, just a boneheaded decision. I agree with Ritz, happy for Kershaw to win it. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball history. Happy for a lot of the Dodgers too, because they've made a lot of deep playoff runs and come up short. And a lot of these guys were there all along. And what a tough road, but they finally got some payoff for it. And then, we'd be remiss if we didn't address the Justin Turner situation.
All right, let's address it.
Because today the Emma, to recap for those who didn't stay up late last night, Justin Turner gets pulled out of the game because he tests positive for COVID. Apparently, this has been a thing all season that players are tested, but results can come back at any time, even during a game. And that's what happened in Game 6 of the World Series. Justin Turner learns that he tested positive for COVID and needs to come out of the game. So he was supposed to isolate because he tested positive. As we know in the news business, this is part of the procedure that if you test positive, you have to isolate. Well, the Dodgers win, and this guy, after tweeting that, he wishes he could be there and it was unfortunate or whatever, he goes out on the field. And I'm like, what's happening right now? And then MLB comes out today and says that he wasn't supposed to be out there. He was told not to. He basically defied the order and went out on the field anyway. And look, I think that there has to be some repercussions for that. This is a guy that went out there, he says he doesn't have any symptoms, which is, great, glad to hear it, but he still has it and he could give it to other people. It could create this snowball effect. And MLB said today that basically the Dodgers and the Rays have to stay at their hotels as they await the results of tests. So, now the bubble has turned into, really a quarantine zone. Which, shows you that MLB didn't really handle this the right way. Look at all the, I know that you, kind of knocked the NBA around when people were comparing it to the NFL, like, they had these, tight restrictions and everything, but they did have tight restrictions and it worked. MLB seemed to have some restrictions in place, but obviously it wasn't foolproof. And something happened there because one of their better players at that, ends up testing positive. So not a good look for Justin Turner, not a good look for the MLB because of, their protocols and the fact that that a player ends up testing positive. So that's really the thing I think that is going to be, lasting discussion out of this, that, Justin Turner, one of the better players in the league, testing positive in Game 6, and then everything that happened after that. It's just wild.
Well, I'm going to, like I said, I wrote a column about this, and I do address the COVID in the column, so I don't want to give away too much. But that being said, to me, this is another indictment that Rob Manfred is a horrible commissioner for Major League Baseball. Because here's the thing. They get the results of that test in the middle of the game. Are you kidding me? There's no way that should be happening. All the test results should be coming the morning of the game or earlier in the afternoon during the game. Are you serious? That's insane. It's crazy. You're trying to tell me MLB, can I have tests done where the results are known before the games even start. So that way, if a player does test positive, that he can be isolated so the rest of the team doesn't get screwed up. Okay. I mean, MLB is darn lucky because if the Rays had actually won last night, what would you do with game 7? Would you have a game 7 tonight? Would you suspend the series for a week or maybe a few days or something? MLB got really lucky. I mean, actually, they maybe should give Kevin Cash some type of pat on the back because he bailed them out. Because if there was a game 7 tonight, there wouldn't be a game 7 tonight. It wouldn't be happening. And the fact that, like you said, Justin Turner needs to be severely disciplined for going out on that field because he was told not to. And whether you fine him, suspend him, I don't know what. I get it. It's sentimental. You won the World Series. You're the longest tenured Dodger. You want to celebrate with your teammates. I get it. Okay. But this is a pandemic. This is a deadly disease that's killed more than 200,000 Americans. Okay. We can talk about the players that, okay, most of these players are young. They're in good health. Most likely, if they catch it, nothing bad's going to happen to them. But there are some older people associated with that team, trainers, equipment staff. The manager of the Dodgers had cancer, Dave Roberts. So, I mean, he's at risk. I mean, it was just a foolish thing to do going out on that field, taking pictures, taking his mask off too. I mean, it's one thing if he had kept his mask on the entire time, maybe there's a little bit of a justification where you're like, okay, he had the mask on the whole time. He was being cautious. No, he took the mask off for pictures. It's insane. I mean, MLB, again, doesn't get it, okay? They don't get it because the fact that a player could take the field having COVID, number one, and the fact that that same player comes out afterwards to celebrate, this is an indictment that Rob Manfred is clueless as MLB commissioner. The piece of metal trophy that they handed out last night, I mean, what an absolute travesty this was. I mean, it was a great game. It was a great series, lots of memorable moments, but unfortunately it's stained because of the way this whole thing ended. And that's on Rob Manfred.
What did you think of, they had a small crowd there, obviously, compared to what would normally be
Right.
at a game, but they let some fans in there. What did you think of the reaction to Manfred when they introduced him in the post-game ceremony? And, usually there's like this honeymoon period with commissioners where, obviously Bettman's been around for a while, so he gets pretty harsh treatment. Goodell, the honeymoon was over, especially after the whole thing with the Patriots and the booze really started to pick up there. And even Adam Silver, I think, is subjected to booze when they present the stuff, in front of a crowd. But, Manfred hasn't been commissioner all that long.
Yeah, about 5 years, actually.
Yeah. So. And so, I think that, there's really been a turn. I think really where people have turned on him is the whole handling with the Astros thing, which we've talked about before on this video. And I think that really kind of changed the opinion a lot of fans have of him because, let's face it. And I think the consensus is that, he let the players off easy. They acknowledged that, they were the ones that were really driving it, together with Alex Cora, and, he let the players off the hook. And, I think that he's gonna pay a price for that for years to come, because as we know, sports fans, they have long memories, and they're not gonna let him forget that anytime soon.
Well, one of the lines I wrote in my column is that Rob Manfred has usurped the title of worst commissioner in pro sports from Roger Goodell. Okay. He's usurped it. I mean, honest to goodness, he is the worst commissioner in all pro sports. He makes Gary Bettman look good. I mean, Gary Bettman, look, I think the NHL has done a pretty good job the last few years with their sport, COVID included and everything else. Gary Bettman gets booed, but he doesn't care. He gets it. He understands it's part of the gig. Roger Goodell gets booed because I think he does deserve to get booed in some ways. Adam Silver, you can argue, has probably done the best job because the way he handled the Sterling thing with the Clippers a few years ago and the way he's handled COVID, that Adam Silver gets it. Okay, this guy understands. Okay. And I don't see him getting booed. If he gets booed, it's probably just like a token boo. And it's like, all right. But I think he's probably the best commissioner in all pro sports. But Rob Manfred, horrible. And then after the game, the way he was talking and everything, and I'm like, what is this guy saying? I don't, it doesn't make sense. It's just, again, it's just MLB. We want to love MLB. MLB baseball is without a doubt one of the best sports of all time. We love MLB. We love the playoffs. Okay. But for some reason, this is a sport that just is clueless, is tone deaf. I mean, again, we had to deal with this with the whole situation, whether they were going to play, the players wanted an 80-game season and they couldn't get an agreement. And Manfred basically said, oh, maybe we're not going to have a season, which angered a lot of people. I mean, this guy just doesn't get it. Look, he's a lawyer. He's a corporate type. Okay. But to be a pro sports commissioner, you've got to be a fan as well as the corporate type. Okay. Fans know phony. They can smell it a mile away, and they smell it on Manfred. It's easy to smell. He's a phony. Okay. He's not a baseball person. He's a corporate guy. Okay. So maybe in a couple of years, maybe the owners in MLB will look past the ledger book, because they're going to lose a ton of money this year, and maybe say, maybe we need a commissioner who actually knows something about baseball, who knows the intricacies of baseball, who actually loves baseball. Okay. And what you want to grow revenue. I get that's the number one priority, but you want someone who's a cheerleader for your sport, an ambassador for your sport. And Rob Manfred is not an ambassador for baseball, and he's the exact opposite, to be honest with you. So, yeah. All right, Rob, you finish it off here.
Yeah, I just, just a couple of points to add about, the job of commissioner. I get why Manfred was a good choice from the perspective of the owners, that, he was obviously part of the MLB organization for a long time, the head office. And so he had that institutional knowledge, but, I think the situation he finds himself in is entirely of his own creation. He's had a lot of unforced errors. I think the Astros thing is going to be a big thing for fans. But then there's other things, certainly, his focus on the rules and all this other stuff that will impact, more than just the relationship with the fans, but the gameplay and, how the players and teams look at him. So, I think, I think the next couple years are going to be big for him, because, baseball is just one of those sports that, you're playing long seasons, and, I think you need to have a good commissioner in there. And if Manfred's not the guy, I think they need to move on if he doesn't improve. Compared to other sports, though, I know that Bettman gets booed a lot, and look, he's my least favorite commissioner out of the big four. I just think he's a doofus. But you look at some of the stuff that he's done. The league's expanding. They seem to be doing well. They're certainly a league on the rise. The NBA, obviously they've had their struggles, but I think a lot of that's due to the situation that they found themselves in, that, basically they were playing over the summer when they don't normally play, and then ending their season right when, usually you'd have like training camps and stuff going on. So, I don't think you can blame Silver too much for that. They made something out of nothing there. And, Goodell, obviously he takes some heat, but, it's hard to argue with the NFL's success over the years. It's not like his performance has hurt their bottom line. So, it's going to be a challenge for Manfred, because MLB is facing a lot of difficulties, on multiple fronts. Obviously, you've got the players and the owners. We saw that strife play out. That's what prevented the season from starting earlier. And that's certainly going to carry over to labor talks. And then, you got some of the ongoing stuff. The Astro stuff is going to linger for a while. You're going to have some of this other stuff gameplay and whatever, that, he might make decisions that really rankle a lot of people. And that's why I say, if he continues on this trajectory, he might not be commissioner in a few years.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So, all right, Robert. Well, as always, it's been fun. And Justin, hopefully your game is going well. We'll see him later. And we'll see everybody else next week. Thanks for joining us.